everybody, welcome to the channel Thinking Theology. I'm Don. You saw the title. I'm talking about a subject that can freak a lot of people out, and especially if you're hardcore into the New Testament and certain aspects of the beast or Satan or the devil and these sorts of things. And the number 666 is associated with Satan or the devil, and I suppose classic Christian thought. And I'm going to present a few things that might put things in a different perspective so that maybe you don't get as weirded out in regular life when you see that number 666, because that is used in a specific context biblically. It was taken from generally the book of Revelation in chapter 13, verse 18. And the number 666 is said to be a reference to the beast. Also generally referred to, most people consider that to be Satan, the epitome of evil and death and all of this. Others say it's a reference to a godless world in the end times, and that would be controlled by Satan, and then things are just going to be horrendous. However you conceptualize it, or however it's been conceptualized, it's a bad thing, and people associate it with horrible things, and that has a filter-down effect into how we perceive that number in regular life. And I want to sort of ameliorate or alleviate some of your angst you might feel about that number. So I'm going to run through just a couple of things just to get your mind thinking in a different way that might make your life a little bit more peaceful. If you don't believe in Satan and all this stuff, then this is a non-issue. This is a non-starter. There's no special difficulty with that number. But let's say you're a professional football player. All right, let's just imagine. Or maybe you are. Maybe you're watching this and you actually are. But now let's say you have 650 yards on the season rushing, and the game starts, and the quarterback hands the ball off to you, and you run the ball for 5 yards. So now you're up to 655 yards. Your next run is for 8 yards, right? So now you're up to 663, and your next run is 3 yards for a total of 666. Are you now evil? Is your running career evil? Is your season evil at this point because it stopped on 666? It weirds most people out when they see that number due to the power of association. But now let's say your next run is 4 yards. Now you've got 670 yards. Are you no longer evil? Or are the runs no longer evil, for instance? And this is just a thought experiment just to sort of get your mind thinking a bit more about that number, to get a little bit more comfortable with it, because it's just a normal progression numerically in our system of numbers that 666 plays just a legitimate normal role in everyday life, even though it's associated with Satan in the Bible, which kind of clouds the issue for most people in ordinary life. Like Hank Aaron and Babe Ruth all had 666 home runs at one point in their career. Now, if you were a recent convert to Christianity and then started following baseball at the point when either one of them had 666 home runs, you might be thinking, oh my God, this is evil. You might tune out and not watch baseball. And then they went on to hit more home runs. So this is, the more you think about things that may be unpleasant to think about, it can kind of help you see things in a different light, so that your quality of life is at least a little bit better. Right now, let's say you're driving across country to drop your freshman child off at college somewhere, and you're driving and you're at 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 miles. At some point when you look down at your odometer, it's going to say 666 miles. It might even add insult to injury, so to speak, depending on your perspective. It says 666.66 miles. And let's say at 666 miles, you look at your odometer, and right there on the highway is the name of a town. In your mind, you might further associate that number with an evil with that town. But here's where it gets a little bit more interesting to conceptualize. Let's say a friend of yours is dropping her child off at the same college, and that friend lives 5 miles further away than you do. So as your friend is driving, your friend looks at the name of the town on the sign on the highway, and she sees 671 miles. So to her, that town has no association whatsoever with evil or Satan or anything like that. So it's one of these things where we really just need to kind of back off. It's really a superstition in that regard when you misapply one principle or something that applies to one person or idea and universally apply it everywhere. And in that regard, it diminishes your quality of life when you have this additional fear or weirdness. You know, let's say your newborn child weighs 6.66 pounds. Now, that's not 666, but it sure looks like it when you look at and you see 3 6s in a row. That can absolutely weird you out, and you might be thinking, oh my God, my child weighed what? Why couldn't my child weigh 6.67 or 6.70 and just make you feel better about it? But that's where you can actually create more difficulties for yourself as well as possibly for others, because the less comfort you have with certain things in life, you kind of live those out in a certain way, and it might get picked up by someone else. So, I mean, I know I'm very close with somebody actually that when she was traveling, she was assigned to room 666 in a hotel. Like when they gave her hotel key, it was room 666, and she would not stay in it. She actually called me, and she's like, I can't do this. She was kind of freaked. And I was like, you know what? I totally get it. Like, you don't have to just absolutely try to pretend that association doesn't weird you out. So if there are plenty of other hotel rooms to stay in the different hotel room. Go to a different floor. Go to the 8th floor. Go to the 4th floor. It doesn't matter. But this is just to sort of get you thinking that just because something happens in one context does not mean everywhere you see some aspect of that elsewhere in the world, that it means that has all the attributes of the original thing. You know, there were kings in the Bible who held these grand parties. And in fact, even John the Baptist is recorded as having been beheaded based on an event that happened at a party. Now, should we never ever have a party because a bad thing happened at one of them? And so only you can decide these things. But as a thinking theology, which is what I do on the channel, I don't espouse a particular theology. I simply say what makes sense to me, obviously, and maybe it'll make sense to you, that if you think more about these things that may pain you, or even those things that bring you joy, you may get a bit more illumination, put it that way, just a little bit more clarity of thought and a bit more peace of mind on it. So there you have it. You may even be able to help someone else who might be freaking out when they go into a bike shop and they see that it's at 666 Main Street. Oh my God, I can't buy a bike there. Well, you decide if you're going to do that. So that's it. Leave your comments, folks. I read them. I try to respond to them as well. So have a great day. I'll see you on another video, and keep thinking theology.